It's an exciting Miners Monday episode here of Locked On Braves. I got Garrett Spain joining me today, one of the best out there covering the Braves minor league system. I'm going to pick his brain about some of the top prospects, some of these promotions, what the Braves might do in the draft, wide range of things covering the Braves farm system. We'll discuss all that on today's episode of Locked On Braves. So let's get into it.
You are Locked On Braves, your daily Atlanta Braves podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, and welcome back to Locked On Braves, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, where we cover your favorite Atlanta sports teams each and every day. I am your host, Jake Mastriani. You can follow me on social media at Shortstop Ball. Check out the podcast there as well at LockedOn_Braves. Send in any questions, comments, or feedback that you have for the podcast. If you're new and watching on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button, hit that thumbs up button as well, so others can find us here at Locked On Braves. And if you're listening on the audio version, make sure you leave me a 5-star review on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. And if you're an everydayer, let me know down in the comments section below. Love hearing from all of you out there who enjoy listening to Locked On Braves each and every day, and it does mean a lot to me. It is a Miners Monday episode. This is pre-recorded. As you know, you've been listening. I'll be out on vacation this week, but I did a pre-recorded episode with Garrett Spain. Again, one of the best out there in covering the minor league level for the Braves. So excited to get into this conversation. Before we do that, though, this episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use code all lowercase LockedOnMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. And again, one more time before we bring Garrett in here, this is pre-recorded on Thursday night, so maybe some stuff that we've missed between now and when this posts on Monday. But I'm really excited for this conversation. We want to have Garrett on for a while, so can't wait to get some of his takes on the Braves minor league system. Well, Garrett, thank you so much for joining the show here today. As I kind of said in the intro, I consider you a must follow out there for any Braves fan who is wanting to know everything that they need to know about the Braves farm system. You are my go-to source out there on X, and obviously where you are on Battery Power, the minor league editor there. And on the podcast, you guys just started Peach State Prospects, Peach State Pros on X is where you can find them there, but Peach State Prospects is the podcast. Garrett, thank you so much for joining the show.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate you having me on. I appreciate the kind words. You know, we do a lot of work, and we have a lot of people, really a lot of interest in the Braves system, and that makes it all kind of worth it.
Yeah, it does. And it's, it's a system, let's be honest, that ranks very poorly, but it's a system that continually, puts out really good product. I mean, you look at Spencer Schwellenbach, and I know it's very early in his tenure at the big league level, but somebody who's kind of surprised a lot and come on, at least his past two starts. And even before that, you can kind of see the stuff that he had. And the Braves just continue to find these guys and continue to churn out prospects that become a big part of this team. And it's helped build this core that they have right now. But I want to just kind of start with the overarching question, Garrett, that I kind of just mentioned. Like I said, on a national level, I think this farm system is viewed as one of the worst in baseball and has been for quite a few years. And there's reasons for that. They built this product into this core that you have. And when that happens, you're going to see a hit typically to your farm system. But I want to hear your thoughts overall. How do you feel about this system that the Braves currently have? Would you still say, I know you don't cover every farm system out there, but would you consider it, a bottom 5 farm system?
It's definitely in that range. Generally, the way that they've built is just they're moving guys up so quickly that, there are a lot of guys that may still be in the minor leagues and other systems that the Braves have pushed to the major leagues and graduated. And a lot of that, too, is with them having international sanctions. They really, had half of that talent hasn't been there for a few years. And now you're starting to see the lower levels of the system are being kind of the dominant levels for the teams where, you're getting a lot of these international guys in single A, a lot of these draft guys in single A and high A that are doing very well. And so I think the system is overall kind of on the rise with having these international guys back in there, and they've been doing fairly well in the drafts. But overall, I mean, it's definitely not a good system, though. If you look at it organizationally, if you're talking talent from guys 27 or under, it's easily one of the better overall organizations. It's just those guys are at the major league level, not playing minor league games.
Yeah, that's a great point, and that's kind of where I wanted to start with you and asking because you mentioned it. The Braves have been so aggressive in calling up their prospects, especially since they started winning and started getting on this run of winning division titles, getting to the postseason. Whether it's calling Michael Harris up from Double A, whether promoting Von Grissom, at the time when they did, but especially these pitchers we've seen the last couple of years, AJ Smith-Shawver, Spencer Schwellenbach, Hurston Waldrop this year. I want to focus more on the pitching side of things because this is where I kind of go back and forth. And I mentioned the fact they started doing it when they were winning because you want to bring up guys you think are going to help you win now. And so if you feel like AJ Smith-Shawver gives you the best chance, I fully understand that. If you think Hurston Waldrop, Spencer Schwellenbach, you're trying to win games now. And so if you feel like these guys are ready and capable, I'm all for calling them up. But I want to hear your thoughts here. What do you think about some of these aggressive promotions, calling up an AJ Smith-Shawver who, didn't have a long run and a track record in high school of being a pitcher, didn't have a lot of innings under his belt at the minor league level, and they bring him up, and to come for a team that is trying to win a division. Same thing with Spencer Schwellenbach, Hurston Waldrop. What are your thoughts on kind of these aggressive promotions? Is it good for the player?
I really think that there's not a huge, I wouldn't say impact on a guy's development in terms of bringing him up early. There are obviously situations where a guy can be rushed very quickly, but the Braves haven't necessarily made decisions that are overwhelmingly terrible for a guy's development. And so it's really about winning games at the major league level. And I don't have an issue with it. Now, I think the Waldrop move was too quick and it kind of showed when he got to the major league level. He wasn't very good. But when you look at a guy like Schwellenbach, yes, the experience isn't there, but when you watch the games, the command was there, the stuff was there. He looked good. I think this Smith-Shawver move was a little bit quick, but I don't think it was a terrible move. And you kind of saw when he came back up this year, he looked good before he went down injured. I like the aggression in terms of I would rather them not have guys sitting at the minor league level that aren't getting anything out of it. Get a guy to the major leagues and see if he can stick there, see if he's able to be that kind of fifth starter that you can rely on and get him that experience early. And then if a guy fails, you can always send him back to AAA, let him get more experience. They did that with Smith-Shawver, and it seemed to pay dividends. And getting value out of guys while they're in their competitive window is important because you could look at a guy like Freddie Freeman. They had a lot of years where, and of course they called him up quickly. I'm not using that as an example of leaving a guy down too long, but there were a lot of years of his best years were when the team wasn't very good. And you don't necessarily want to have that problem where you leave a guy down an extra year or two, and then all of a sudden his prime years, he's on a not very good team because eventually the competitive window is going to close. They're going to have some down years, and having guys at the major league level, that's the goal for them, is get guys to the major leagues as quickly as possible to bolster the roster as it is.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point. It's why I kind of go back and forth on it because especially while they're in this window to win, like I said, you don't want to waste those bullets at the minor league level. If you feel like, I'm sure they did when they brought him up. You feel like Hurston Waldrop can come up and get big league outs and he has the stuff to do so, call him up if there is a need there. And other thing with pitchers, we've seen so many injuries. Look, why waste those bullets at the minor league level? Like I said, if you think they're big league ready, because you just never know when a pitcher is going to go down. So use them while you have them. And again, you have to be able to performing. And, the minor league numbers suggested for both Schwellenbach and Waldrop and AJ Smith-Shawver last year that, they were deserving to at least get a chance. So, but let's stick with those guys for just a minute. I want to get your thought because I think most people would kind of look at those three as the top prospects in the system right now. I'm a big J.R. Ritchie fan. I know he just kind of is making his way back. Owen Murphy was obviously having a great start to the year before he got injured. But just looking at AJ Smith-Shawver, Spencer Schwellenbach, Hurston Waldrop, we've seen all of them at the big league level now. Which one of them do you still think has the best or the highest upside in a big league rotation?
I would say pure upside, it's probably Waldrop. He has the one pitch his splitter is just the best pitch that any of them throw. Though I would say, if we're looking at realistic upside, I don't necessarily think that he's the guy that I would project to have good enough command to ever reach that point. I think if you're looking at overall upside, looking at the athleticism, Schwellenbach and AJ Smith-Shawver are close, but the age of AJ Smith-Shawver. He's hitting 100 now at the AAA level. You look at the athleticism there and the way he's been able to develop pitches at a very quick rate without a lot of experience. I really think that AJ Smith-Shawver is the guy that I would look to as not only the top prospect in the system, but the guy that I would be not only give him a high ceiling, but be most confident that he can reach that. I think all three are kind of in a fairly similar zone where I don't necessarily see them as Spencer Strider number one pitcher types, but they are guys that I could see as, 2-3 types in terms of their ceiling, with AJ Smith-Shawver being the most likely to reach that.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Coming into the season, I put Waldrop 1, Shawver 2, and I think I had J.R. Ritchie 3rd and Schwellenbach 4th. But when I do my rankings, I do it based on 90th percentile. If this guy reaches, his max potential of what he could be, that's kind of how I rank it. And I kind of agree. And I think that's what you were saying. If Waldrop, if he ever got the command, he already has the elite pitch to be that top of the rotation arm. It's just, will he get there? And that is still a huge question mark. So definitely agree with that assessment. When we come back, I want to talk about Nacho Alvarez. I got so many people asking me about Nacho. Obviously, he's off to a great start at AAA. My biggest question for him, what does he look like defensively? Can he stick at shortstop? I'm going to get Garrett's questions here on that, or answers here on that next. I love sports, and I love them so much. I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down for both the NBA and NHL, we get fewer games, and the sports aren't sportsing like they normally are. But FanDuel, it lets the sports keep on going whenever I want. All I have to do is open up the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking all customers up with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day on FanDuel all summer long. Head on over to FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started to make the most out of your summer. You're going to see some MLB odds out there. They got player props, first inning props as well, division winners. You take a look at that right now. The Phillies are -300 to win the NL East, with the Braves at +240. So things have certainly flopped there a little bit, but the Braves still in the running for the World Series. They have the 4th best odds behind the Dodgers, Yankees, and Phillies. Again, you check all that over at FanDuel.com/lockedon. Also, make sure you visit FanDuel.com/playsafe for tools and resources to help you stay in control of the way you play. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. It's really that simple. All you got to do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. It really is that simple. I'm doing it right now while we talk. I'm opening up my PrizePicks app. You want to get on some of the action later tonight as I'm recording, but you're going to see this on Monday, so things are going to change. But they got Fernando Tatis Jr. for 7 hitter fantasy score. You pick more or less. It really is that simple. So open up your PrizePicks app, see what they have out there, pick more or less on player stats like RBIs, hitter fantasy scores, strikeouts, and much, much more. And you can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000. PrizePicks is available in more than 30 states across the country, including California, Texas, and Georgia. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on PrizePicks for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy with PrizePicks. All right, Garrett, let's jump back into our conversation here, looking at the Braves minor league system. And a guy that I've loved, I got his card sitting behind me. You can't see it right now, but Nacho Alvarez. And, it's just one of those picks the Braves made. Everybody's scrambling to figure out who this guy is. You see him hit the baseball, and there's obvious hitter skill potential there. And a lot of fans right now a little frustrated with what they're seeing from Orlando Arcia. And then obviously with Nacho getting the bump to AAA and being on fire, the bat was there. The big question is, can he show some power? And he wasn't necessarily doing that at AA, but now you're seeing it at AAA. But the question for me, Garrett, is does he have the ability to stick at shortstop? You look at him and just on looks, you wouldn't think so. But everything I hear says that, he's got the range. I know he has the arm and the quick hands, but everything I hear says that he has the range to stick defensively at shortstop. Do you agree?
I don't necessarily think that he's going to be a great defensive shortstop. He's definitely not going to be in the league of a guy like Arcia, but when you look, he has an arm that's probably a very good arm. That's his best skill, and he can make really any throw from shortstop. And so you don't worry about that. That was kind of one of the big things with Vaughn Grissom is he really didn't have the arm to stick the position. Great first step, great hands. And so he makes all of the plays you need him to make. His range, at the ends is a little bit limited. And so he's not going to make a lot of those spectacular plays. But one of the good things that the Braves do is they're very good at positioning players and getting the most out of a player. Luke Waddell is another example down at AAA where didn't really seem like he was going to stick at shortstop. Now they've learned how to position him, and he really looks like, a major league quality defender. Nacho is going to be similar in that they're going to have to maximize his positioning, but I think he can stick as an average-ish to fringe average shortstop. I don't think that he's going to be a guy that just has the foot speed to really be above average, but if they need a shortstop, I think he can stick there. I don't think it's the ideal position for him, but it's definitely the path to the major leagues for him. And as long as he's hitting well enough, you can kind of overlook if his defense isn't necessarily, with Arcia, his defense has to be plus to even have him in the lineup. I think with Alvarez, he's going to, at peak, be a good enough hitter that you can overlook if he's not necessarily a Gold Glove caliber defender. As long as he's average to maybe even a little bit below average at the position, you can feel confident with him there.
Yeah, that's just how, good I think the bat will be. Now, again, the power is one thing we've been looking for. And, we talk about where his position might be. I know a lot of people say third base, but, generally you go to third base, you're looking for somebody that's going to give you 20 plus home runs a year. Now, the rest of the lineup, like the Braves have it constructed, and obviously third base is locked up for a long time. You don't necessarily worry so much about the power, but the on-base potential. And that's one thing I've talked about on the podcast a lot lately. The Braves just don't have that high on-base guy right now, especially with Ronald out of the lineup, and Nacho can certainly bring that. What do you see in the bat? What do you see his projection as? Could he get to 20 home runs? Do you think he has that power potential?
He's definitely strong, but I think with the way his swing is geared, he's a little bit rotational on his hips, and he has a very direct bat path. It's more of a line drive contact sort of approach. And so there's enough on-base potential. If you're, I've seen it, looked up the numbers and stuff like that. If you're a 370, 380 on base percentage guy, you're an above average major league hitter, no matter how much power you hit for or don't hit for. And his lowest on base percentage at any level is 381. He can clearly get on base. Great approach. One of the lowest chase rates you'll see. Very high contact rates. Hits a ton of line drives. So he's a guy that you're confident is going to hit and be good enough to at least be an above average major league hitter just with his on base skill. They're making strides with his power. He's not going to be a 20 home run guy, but I do think that you could see that being a 10 to 15 home run type bat because, they've raised him up a little bit in his stance. He's kind of dipping his hips a little bit more into contact and kind of driving through contact a little bit more. It's not as much rotation, but more of a direct hip drive into his swing. And so you're seeing more of that pull side power now from him where he had a pull side home run the other day, another ball that he hit hard, hit off the bottom of the wall, had a home run to center field. That's really been, he's always had the strength to hit for power, but a lot of it with this swing has been opposite field. Now he's kind of turning on the ball. He's opened up his stance a little bit to where he's able to kind of get in on inside pitches and hit for power to pull side. And so you're seeing the help of not playing in Trustmark Park. That's a big detriment to anybody's power production, but you're seeing him pull the ball with more authority, and that's why the home run rates have gone up. He's obviously not going to sustain what he's done early on in that regard, but I think I'm kind of getting to the point where he's at least a 10 home run bat, and if he can get to 15, and I definitely think he has the strength to do that, the raw strength to do that, then you're looking at a guy that's an easily plus hitter, 120 type WRC plus guy, and with his defense, that's a very valuable player.
Yeah, again, and you're just looking for average defense. I think with the bat that you're going to get from him, especially if he's going to give you double-digit home runs, somebody that might hit 280, maybe he hits even higher than that. But and then I know it's a 380 on base at the minor league level, but you got to imagine that probably comes down a little bit at the majors. But even 340, 350 on pace guy, I mean, you will certainly take that. It'd be a little bit different in this Braves lineup than what they have, which is just power up and down. And maybe it's something that's needed again with the new rules and with the way the baseball is not traveling as much this year. We'll see if that changes, but it might be something that this Braves lineup needs more of going forward. So we'll see what happens there with Nacho. I don't think we're going to see him this year, Garrett. I don't know if you have a lean one way or the other. You think, I mean, he's at AAA. We've seen the Braves do crazier things. Any way other than an Arcia injury that we see Nacho at the big leagues this year?
Yeah, I think they're pretty set with RC. I think they're confident enough in saying that his defense is what they really want right now. And I don't know that Alvarez, I think he would be a slightly better hitter, but I think at this stage, he's got things that he needs to work for, and he wouldn't be that much better of a hitter to justify the defensive downgrade. And so I think if Arcia goes down, or really anybody in that infield goes down, he's probably the next guy up. But it would definitely take an injury from someone for him to get up this year. I think they may give him a shot in spring training next year, but for now, I think he's best served in the minor leagues.
Yeah, and I kind of agree with that as well. As much as I love Nacho, I've been a big fan. Everybody listening to the podcast knows that, but I do think probably just needs a little bit more time at the minor league level. But certainly an exciting prospect and an exciting position player prospect. Braves don't have many of those, Garrett, but one that maybe could be coming soon and jumping up a lot of the prospect rankings is Luis Guanipa, and we've just recently got to see him at the FCL level. Don't know how long he'll be there. I know your co-host buddy over there said he may not be there long with the way that he's playing. Is Luis Guanipa the best position player prospect in the system? I know they just signed Jose Perdomo. He's on the IL right now. Haven't seen him play at all professionally, but do you think Guanipa could be that best position player prospect in the system?
Right now, it's Alvarez just because of the floor with him. He's already at AAA, seems to be able to hit there. But Guanipa's a guy that, I want to see him in full season ball, which really, I mean, that could be within the next couple of weeks, just the way he's played and how good he's looked when we've gotten a chance to see him. He seems like a guy who, with his bat speed, could be a guy that could really even succeed at high A at this point if they wanted to, but I don't think they'll push him that quickly. And I think that once you get him into full season ball, get more eyes on him, I would not be surprised if this time next year you're talking about him as, the number one prospect in the system, assuming, the pitchers all graduate by that point, which probably does happen. He's a guy that I've been very high on since they signed him, and the video we've seen on him, he's quieted a lot of the issues with his swing. Elite bat speed, explosive athlete. He does everything so well, and you kind of hope that, you've seen the contact rates increase, and when he goes into single A, high A next year, I don't really think that those pitchers are good enough to really get him out. His bat speed is so good, he can get away with mistakes. I think once he reaches double A, he'll start to run into issues with breaking balls just with his approach. But right now, this is a guy that his arrow is very well on the way up. And I think that if I was ranking them right now, I would probably have him above Perdomo, but it's very close. There's a lot of exciting guys at the bottom of that system.
Yeah, there are. Like you said earlier, I mean, with those international sanctions going away, the Braves are now open up to sign a lot of these guys. We know they typically go heavy pitching in the draft, and the international signing is generally where you're going to go after a lot of these position player guys, and we're starting to see some of them come up now. Ambiorus Tavares was kind of that first one. Looked like he was maybe starting to figure some things out. He's missed some time, so I'm assuming he's injured down there. But now you got Guanipa, you got Perdomo coming up. So some exciting names starting to come up at the bottom of the Braves system. And like I said, I hope Guanipa does move to full season ball just so we get some more video on him. I know the swing I saw of him the other day, hitting that home run, the bat speed just looked incredible. So I can't wait to see more on him. I want to take another break, and then I'll come back and get Garrett's thoughts on maybe who some breakout prospects could be this year, and also the Braves strategy as we head into the MLB draft. We'll do all of that here next. Get supplies from the site that's made for the skilled trades, SupplyHouse.com. SupplyHouse.com is the reliable way to order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Shop a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands and get your order delivered right to your door with fast shipping from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Get expert support and industry-leading service from the friendliest folks in the business and talk to a real person every time. Pros in the skilled trades can get a competitive edge by joining SupplyHouse.com's free Trade Master program. Every Trade Master gets access to a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Join the thousands of trade pros already benefiting from their free membership at SupplyHouse.com/TM and order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies from anywhere with just a few clicks at SupplyHouse.com. Make sure, again, that you are following Garrett on social media if you're not already at Braves MILB. Also, make sure that you are following the podcast, Peach State Prospects. Again, they're the best out there in covering minor league Braves baseball. So make sure that you're following them, listening to their podcast. And again, Garrett, one of the best out there in doing so. Garrett, let's kind of wrap things up a little bit here. I want you to give me maybe a name or two that Braves fans aren't as familiar with that have really surprised you so far early this season that you think could be some breakout prospects for the Atlanta Braves.
The first one I want to go to is Lucas Brun. This is a guy that at high A over the last couple of weeks, he's really dominated. 54 strikeouts in his last 41 and 2/3 innings, only 6 walks. Great command, 4-pitch mix. A guy that, he's a college guy, was a 6th-round pick last year. A guy I could see in Atlanta next year. So aggressive as they've been with pitchers, as many as pitchers as they go through, that's kind of the next guy that I really look at and say, okay, this is a guy that's going to rise through the system fairly quickly, and I could see him ending up in Atlanta pretty early next year, and a guy that I really think could fit in the back end of that rotation for a long time, assuming that everything holds up. We've seen a lot of guys go up and kind of not necessarily do all that well, but he doesn't have he has a good fastball, 94 to 95, good life on it. So he's not like a guy like Darius Vines where you look at that and say that's kind of a weakness. For him, he really has 4 major league quality pitches. So really good find for them out of the draft last year, and a guy that's going to probably make some waves pretty soon. Down in A-ball, again, another pitcher would be Jeremy Reyes. He only has a couple starts down there, 18-year-old, but we know he's been up to 99, already showing a slider and a changeup that could be major league quality. Great athleticism there. A guy that I think is going to not rise through the ranks quickly, but he's going to get a lot of attention fairly quickly because he's a guy that can put up numbers at the lower levels. Same with Didier Fuentes. And then on the offensive end of things, I definitely want to go with a hitter here. A guy that's done well in high A is EJ Exposito. More of a backup type player, but a guy that people really love, and a guy, guys that play with him, guys that coach him, they love him. Can play some shortstop, has really shown off power this year. And then at the single A level, Isaiah Drake, one of their higher picks last year, really got off to a disappointing start, had some injury trouble. All of a sudden, though, he has turned it around. He's making, he's striking out less than 25% of the time, where that was over 50% for a while. Approach has improved, and this is a guy that's one of the best athletes in the system. You could put him up there with Guanipa in terms of pure athleticism, above average raw power, 80 grade speed, can play center field. He's a guy that, he's still 18, a kid from just outside of Atlanta. And, you look at that all of a sudden, you say, that's one of those players that could be a top 10 prospect in the system a year from now if he keeps going at this rate. It's been a great turnaround for him. Another guy that, everyone in the organization loves and think he has a great personality and great makeup. And so he's a guy that I think is going to get a lot of attention fairly soon if he continues on this trajectory. It's going to take a little bit of time to get to the major leagues. He's raw in a lot of ways, and that was expected from him, but he's made a lot of improvements very quickly. And he's one that 3-4 years down the road could come in and take a spot at the major league level and be a very good starter for a long time.
Yeah, excited about all those names. I'll mention Jeremy Reyes. I got that one from you guys listening to your podcast, and I went out and picked him up on my very, very deep dynasty league. So hopefully that works out for me. Similar, I did that with young Carlos Lara last year, kind of a breakout prospect at the lower level. I know he's off to a bit of a slow start this year, but obviously a talented arm as well. All right, Garrett, very quickly, MLB draft coming up here in about a month. Braves strategy's been starting pitching for the most part early in the draft. You think that sticks this year? Do you think that strategy changes up at all? Any thoughts as we get ready for the MLB draft?
It's kind of a situation where we never really know what the Braves are going to do, right? Most of what we are seeing is college again this year. That tends to be where they tend to favor. And I think it's a situation where they're looking at some of these guys like Carson Benji, Ryan Waldschmidt, and they're saying, if you're there at 24, we want you. If not, then you can kind of back off and look at lower levels. I know Dowdy was mentioned today as a prep pitcher. It's a situation where they're really, you feel like they're targeting, like they have always, those high level athletes that they feel that they can develop. Waldschmidt's a guy, Benji's a guy, and you kind of hope that they can develop those athletes, or have any guy. I mean, no one really expected Waldrop to slide last year to where he did. And so they're kind of looking for, can one of these top 15 prospects get to us? And if not, then I think that they'll go more towards what they have done in years past, where they'll get an underslot guy in the first round and then really look to target prep guys second, third, fourth round, and get some guys over slot and spread out that money and get 3, 4, 5 guys with 7-figure bonuses rather than just 1 or 2.
Yeah, that's been the strategy for the most part over the years for the Braves, definitely during the Alex Anthopoulos and Dana Brown era, kind of before that. So we'll see if they go that same route this year. But Garrett, thank you so much for joining me here today. Again, make sure you follow Garrett on social media at Braves MILB. Make sure that you follow their podcast, Peach State Prospects. Again, best out there in covering the minor league level for the Braves farm system. So glad that I was able to have Garrett on the show. Really enjoyed this conversation. I could talk with you all day about Braves prospects, but we'll go ahead and put an end to it there. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube. Hit that thumbs up button as well. Make sure that you rate, review, and subscribe to the Locked On Braves podcast wherever you get your podcast, and we will talk to you next time.